Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Hunt Lift Eat podcast brought to you by Hunt Lift Eat Official. I'm Carter here with my fantastic co-host, Kerri McAllister. What's going on, Kerri?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm good, dude. And if my Wi-Fi craps out here, you are the host.
Let's hope it doesn't crap out, right?
It's like a field promotion, right on the bat. Yeah, dude. Stoked to have you on. And, you kind of brought our esteemed guest today to my attention and to the Hunt Lift Eat podcast attention, man. So excited to talk about y'all's relationship and the ins and outs of this company here. And, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Phillip Meece to the podcast today, founder, inventor of the Carnivore Bar. What's going on, Phillip?
Not a lot. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. Once Kerri and I spend a lot of time together virtually, saving the world and solving the world's problems. And we always end up, shooting the shit a little bit. And he was telling me about some new stuff going on in his life, man. And he's recently become a brand ambassador for your company, which is pretty cool. And he was like, dude, check these guys out. And I was like, that's way cool. We got to look into this. Let's get this guy on the podcast. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a fancy brand, social media kind of thing, but at the end of the day, it's really just pemmican. So that's kind of like our bread and butter. It's the tactical food that I always wanted.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Same here. I'm glad you came up with it.
Yeah, I was, shooting the shit with my fellow veterans, and we're just like, we really wanted to meet MRE, but we didn't know how to do it. So, it kind of was sat in the back burner for years and years, and the carnivore movement came along, and we were like, oh crap, this would be perfect. It's like, let's revisit this. And it's like, yeah, we did a Kickstarter, launched, and people loved it. So I'm just really grateful for the community supporting us and all our affiliates, jumping on the bandwagon, helping us promote this thing. It's just meat and no crap, no preservatives, nothing that's going to wreck you. And so that was the goal from go. And, we've been fortunate enough to make it this far and survive the pandemic. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kerri, can you talk a little bit about how you got started with the Carnivore Bar and your relationship with them?
Yeah, so kind of a similar experience that Phillip had, where we were eating just garbage on deployments, or in my case, I had ate a lot of local food. I lived off the economy on more than one of my deployments, and you just wrecked my guts, man. One deployment, I was by myself. I got extremely sick. I didn't have anyone to run to. All I had was expired medicines and Google, and I'm not a medic. So trying to fix myself with that, man, and it didn't really work out, right? So the infection kind of stayed. And even though the infection is now past, my guts have just been wrecked, right? And so I've been on this journey of trying to figure out what foods don't make me sick anymore. And honestly, it's an animal-based diet. If you had to put a name on it, animal-based diet was the only thing that didn't make me sick. But the problem is, where can you find animal-based foods that you can take into the backcountry? Like when you can take traveling, there's very few out there. And so coming off the end of the 23 hunting season, where I was traveling all over the place, doing different states, different hunts in different states, and then coming back, and then I was jumping on. Luke had me going to different expos and all that. And so half the time I'm either risking getting sick or I'm starving. I think I lost 5 pounds in a week at a whitetail camp in Virginia. Luckily it wasn't a super, physically taxing hunt, but there was just no food. And so I started looking around. I was like, there's got to be a good answer. And I came across Carnivore Bar, and dude, I've been buying from you guys since early 24. And then finally about 3 weeks ago, I was like, I'm just going to reach out, man. I was like, hey, love your products. I'm not like a superstar on Instagram or nothing, but I want to rep you guys efficiently. I want to be a part of this. And so here I am, man. I'm one of your brand ambassadors. Carnivore Bar is a pretty big staple in my household, because I'm constantly in the woods, man. Like I'm either on the road doing something or I'm in the woods. I retired almost 2 years ago, and now I'm a professional adventurer is what I like to call myself, right? So 100% disabled and retired, man. I'm doing what I want when I want. And, but I've got to feed myself, right? And so, dude, I'm sitting on, I got about not quite 30 bars in my fridge right now. I'm about to put in another order because I'm doing 2 10-day hunts in Alaska. So backcountry hunts, flying in, and we're out there, right? And my plan is 2 carnivore bars a day along with some dried fruit, and then we're cooking meat at night, right? So we're bringing some food out there, so we'll be cooking. But yeah, dude, carnivore bars are amazing. Even if you're not on the carnivore diet, animal based or whatever, man, it's just good quality whole foods, no bullshit, and won't leave you bloated, won't leave you gassy, won't make you sick. It's awesome.
Well, I mean, Kerri's basically covered it all.
In the podcast.
Yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's like, if you're away from civilization, like if you want something that digests well, it's a Native American tradition. It's made for survival, and that high fat component I think is really critical. If you're animal based, keto, or if you're working hard, long hours without refrigeration, you need something that's going to actually like fuel you. That isn't granola and preservatives, because that just doesn't sit well. After about 7 Cliff Bars, you got a little lump of granola traveling through you, and it's not comfortable.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Phillip, can you kind of talk about maybe some of the origins and inspiration from maybe your background in the military and some of your experiences that led you to actually put this into motion?
Totally. I kind of had a gut wipeout, very similar story. Well, in Afghanistan, malaria is endemic. So we were all taking doxycycline, like giant horse pills with antibiotics, and it kind of wipes out your gut. At the same time, I got the misfortune of being stationed with the anti-tank unit against the vast array of Taliban tanks. So we were kind of useless, and we got sent off into the boonies on the idiot stepchild jobs. Like, we just got sent everywhere and just forgotten, lost in non-critical areas of Afghanistan. And so we were just eating MREs all day, every day for months on end. And that's not how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to rotate back. But, it's a little 60-man company. It doesn't really matter. We're not important to the battle space. So it's just like, they just forgot about us. And we were out there closing down little combat outposts. And during 2011, 2012, and we were getting sick. We were getting really, really sick. And I treated a lot more digestive and sleep issues and behavioral health issues than I did bullet wounds and shrapnel. And so I'm like, gosh, there's got to be a better way. We have all this money and all this gear and all this technology, but we can't get like wholesome food to Afghanistan. It's like anything that survived the trip is either chock full of preservatives or it's spoils. I purchased jerky, like good clean jerky, but it didn't have enough preservatives in it, and it soured on the trip. They're shipping these Connexes. The heat cycles of the desert go up and down, up and down, up and down. And so it pulls all the moisture to one side of the bag and then molds. And I was devastated. I was spending my own money trying to get supplies to the battlefield so that I can maintain my health, and I just couldn't do it. And so I started thinking real hard about how I could get a meat MRE to Afghanistan with the nutrition that I was not getting. Because cigarettes, rippets, and sugar were the 3 food
in Copenhagen.
Yeah, exactly. Nicotine, caffeine, and sugar, like 3 drugs, and it's like no nutrition. So you're starving, and you're just taking all the crap out of the MRE and just grabbing the candy because at least that's edible. Throw the rest away, and that led us to be really, really unhealthy and really, really unhappy. So I said, there's got to be a better way to do this. And I remember from grade school hearing about pemmican. I just was like, well, shoot, you don't have antioxidants. You don't have like all this other, you don't have any greens, other stuff you need. And then the carnivore movement came out and they said, actually, you can survive just fine with just meat. I was like, light bulb. I'm like, oh. So this is the critical part of nutrition. You can eat the other stuff. It's fine for most people unless you're very, very sick. But carnivore community is people who have gotten sick from goodness knows what, chemicals, exposure, mold, all sorts of things, autoimmune issues.
Drinking water in Africa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like you can eat the MREs or you can eat local food. It's nice either way. But yeah, so they've gotten sick. They've gotten dysbiosis for some reason, and eating only meat, fatty red meat, really hypoallergenic. It's really helped a lot of those people. And so I thought if I could combine my mission with their mission and be a service to the community, then we could make this product happen. Because I was sitting there slaving away every weekend making pemmican in my kitchen, and I could only make like this tiny little batch. It took the whole weekend to wait for it all to dry and grind it up and do all this stuff. And I was like, if we can pool our resources and we can make this a little easier, maybe there's a business opportunity here where I could have my weekends back.
So, dude, you went all the way back, like from a historical point of view. You decided to go back to like the OG grab and go. I need to be able to travel, right? It's from the Plains tribes, right? Who would travel really far on horseback, and that's what sustained them, right? So, like, how did you decide to go that route?
Yeah, and so it really comes down to not knowing what messed me up. I just had this list of like, well, there was burn pits. Well, there was foot bread and goat meat and other things that we ate. And it's like, okay, so there's antibiotics. And it's like, and there's all this preservatives in the MRE. And, it conspired to just create pure concentrated digestive hatred. And I was like, okay, let's pull back. Let's go really wide. Like, how do I get shelf-stable meat without adding a bunch of preservatives? And, that you look into historical methods and the Western traditions, they're always adding stuff. They're always adding like fermentation or spices, like curing sausage and things like that. And some of those are really good, but I have no idea if I'm allergic to that or if I'm reacting to that or if that's messing me up. So I want preservation technique with as little added as possible. And there's just a ton of grunt work involved in making pemmican. You have to pulverize absolutely dry meat and mix it with tallow. And if you get it dry enough, it is shelf stable for decades. So I was like, okay, that sounds like me. Zero added. It's Lion Diet compliant, the strictest, most harsh form of ruminant meat only carnivore. And I was like, okay, I don't know what's going to wreck me. I'm going to start here at a place I know is safe and then build up the product from there. And hopefully I can have something that I can have this newfound way of eating that made me feel tons better. And I can take it on the go and never be without this fatty red meat that's been like my saving grace.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. And dude, how cool is it, man? I'm sitting in the woods, right? And I'm eating pemmican, the same thing, long hunter and mountain men, guys before me, man. It's just, I don't know, there's something primal about it. I think it's awesome.
Frontiersmen.
And then, what's that?
Frontiersmen, yeah. They used it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah. And dude, I mean, this right here, so the price of it is about what you're going to pay for like some garbage mountain house full of crap, right? So if I'm going to the woods, am I going to pay the same amount of money for a mountain house that is most likely going to jack me up? Or am I going to take something that my badass ancestors and forefathers did?
Yeah, it's, again, coming from that place of humility of like just not knowing where I went wrong. I do all grass-fed, grass-finished, regenerative agriculture, American sourced, American made, end-to-end control the supply chain. And that has a lot of costs, but I just don't want to be sick. And so for me, like that, like peace of mind. I know exactly what's in it. There's no hidden ingredients. There's nothing sus that's been added that they don't have to legally tell you they added. There's all this just crazy BS that happens in food manufacturing nowadays that I just really, I'm not comfortable with. I don't know what it is. I don't want it in the food. And so doing it that way is not the most cost effective, but it is the most health effective. And that's that's kind of what I'm going for. It's like, I just don't want to be sick.
Yeah.
In Afghanistan on mission, you can't change the mission. You can't make it suck less. But, I figured I didn't need to be hungry while I was sucking. I was like, I can solve one of these problems. I'll pick the one that I can solve. I can't change
Yep.
geopolitics. I can't change the country. I can't change the mission. But I don't have to be without proper nutrition. I can do something about that.
So I say being hungry is stupid.
I want our next line of T-shirts that come out, Kerri, just to be one-liners from you.
All right, got it. I'll just sit down and start jotting them down.
Yeah.
First one, being hungry is stupid.
Yeah, we'll tell Luke. We'll handle the designs for the next drop. We'll handle it. Don't worry
Well,
about
and
it.
now that you got stuff up and running, you said you got your weekends back, man. Are you getting after it in the woods? Or do you hunt? Do you fish? Anything like that?
A lot of time now, I kind of spend recuperating. So I am up and running, but I try to get outdoors, get some sunlight. That's my chief priority. I don't do a lot of hunting. I would love to, but the grind is real. Like, unfortunately, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back with running a business. It's not. I do have my weekends back technically, but I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
when we get there. So
I'm starting to learn a little bit about this business stuff, man. Luke's got me reading business book to try to learn.
nice. Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, especially during the pandemic. Like, surviving that was crazy. So I've had to redesign, re-engineer the entire process of how I do what I do several times. And so, like, our costs went up like 600%. So we had to change cuts. Then we had to like redesign how we were doing it. And then what worked really well in small batches didn't work well for a double egg. 2 times that size, suddenly it didn't work anymore. Or I don't have enough trays, or I don't have enough molds. And it's like, okay, well, back from the drawing board, I got to re-engineer this. I got to find a different piece of machinery that's going to be compliant with our goals of not adding anything and not messing it up. Because if you've ever made pemmican, and I highly recommend that hunting enthusiasts like try it because it's fun. It's like you get a set of trays and dry your meat, and then it's like you cut it too thick and it's hard to break apart, or you cut it too thin and it's just burnt, or you overheat your tallow, or you get it too runny, or you don't get the right quality suet or tallow, like raw fat. And so there's all these learning curves. But you'll find that if you want to make a bigger batch, it's not that you need 2 drying racks. It's now that you need like a whole different kind of drying configuration. And so all of a sudden, you went from spending a $99 dehydrator that you got off Amazon. It's no big deal. Kind of like, oh, easy peasy, I'll just make some pemmican. To then all of a sudden having to go like $10,000, $20,000 pieces of equipment to do just a little bit bigger. And it's like, whoa, like this thing does not scale very well. The original recipe, they broke apart the sun-dried smoked meat with mortar and pestle, which is like a stone bowl. I have one. Just kind of for show and tell. Imagine all day with bison, grinding by hand, meat into pulverized dust, and then mixing it in a cast iron kettle full of tallow, mixing it by hand into the balls and packing it in rawhide. So this would have been work with a capital W. Work. And, for them, they did it because it meant survival. When they break camp, the Plains Native Americans, several different tribes, they have an 800-mile loop where they're following bison. The whole breadbasket of America is bison foraged, essentially. That carbon is sequestered from those animals that graze, and that's why it's such rich, fertile soil. And so you catch that loop in the wrong time, you might be waiting 8 to 9 months before they come around, and you can't be caught off guard if you catch that herd at the wrong time. Your family could starve to death. And so when you have a good hunt, everyone eats till they're bursting, and then you eat again until you're bursting. You eat again until you're bursting, and then you have several thousand pounds left. And what do you do with that? It's like, well, you make it into pemmican because you don't know if the hunting's going to be good the next time you stop. And so they followed the bison on this huge continent-sized circle. And, pemmican was how they made sure that not only they hunt well today, but they're good for tomorrow too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Hearing about the historical application and kind of origins of pemmican has me thinking. Clearly you've had to study, right? Like the nutritional side of things and get real spun up on that so that you can be knowledgeable and convey that message to, your customer base, right? So can you talk a little bit about the nutritional philosophy? Like what is pemmican and what is, the Carnivore Bar aiming to? You mentioned like the high fat content, right? But why is that kind of what you're looking for in the Carnivore Bar? And then maybe if you know it off the top of your head, any macros or calories associated with
Sure.
some of your bars.
Yeah, so our bar is keto macros. It's 80% calories from fat. And so it's very, very high fat. It just also happens to be the traditional recipe. The traditional recipe is 50% dried meat, all the way dry, and then 50% rendered tallow. So when you render the tallow, you get the collagen out of it. You break apart the fascia. It's just the pure fat. You're cooking out a lot of the moisture, and there's absolutely no moisture whatsoever in the lean meat. And so if you take them by weight, 50 for 50, and you mix them together, that just happens to be the keto macros that scientists are all excited about. Huberman and all the different podcasts and all the different doctors and all the the keto low fat or low carb, high fat weight loss kind of strategy perfectly matches up with this ancestral food that's at least documented 300 years old, probably more like thousands and thousands of years old. And so our ancestors have been eating this for an awful long time before there was any kind of health studies and thriving off of this. And for them, this was a survival food. So it's meant to have everything you need in it. And if you look at the advanced human physiology, obviously people are tracking that you need some red meat or you need supplements. You need shots. If you don't have B12, you die. So to me, that's pretty clear indication that we were meat eaters, that meat was a critical component of our diet. And if you dial in a little further than the very obvious glaring, you die if you don't have it. There are certain B vitamins, L-carnitine, that you're only going to get from red meat that help shuttle fatty acids into the cell. You get everything runs better on keto, like ketones, things like that. So your brain chemistry, your heart, your cardiovascular system, your energy levels, like all these different things that ketos come out as helping people with mental health issues, helping them with seizures, all kinds of neurocognitive, digestive issues. People are getting better on carnivore. Now, that's not to say that it's the end-all be-all, but if you have an issue, it's something to try. And in our community, there's this interest in reactivity to plants. So plants can't run away from you. They can't fight you like an animal can. as you guys are keenly aware, you have to work. Hunting is hard work. It's a lot of skill. It's a lot of preparation. It's a lot of patience. The animals fight back. They're not just going to run up and jump on your plate. Like, so yeah, their defense mechanisms are known. If you get on the wrong side of something big, it can absolutely kill you, especially something big like a moose that has a good amount of fat on its back, the kind of animal that would be perfect to feed your family. So when you're looking at what defense mechanisms have, plants have chemical defense mechanisms. Like we all have fun ones that we like nicotine and caffeine, but those are neurotoxic for insects that prey on those plants. So they kill. They're disrupting the nervous system of those plants, and they kill them. So it's dose dependent. We have nicotine and caffeine. And you're like, ooh, this is fun, But for the plant, it's trying to kill its main prey, main predator, excuse me. And the predator is that little bug. And so the dose makes the poison. There are birds, for example, that are immune to capsaicin. So those birds can't feel the heat of spicy food, and that's where they co-evolve to work together to get those seeds where they need to go for the plant. And so everything else that eats it gets lit up. And these defense chemicals are known factors of plants, and the carnivore community is really into analyzing all these different chemicals and saying okay, well, what is this chemical for? Is it really to help me and be a boost to me, or is it a defense mechanism? There's a really fun one in broccoli, sulforaphane, that's activated at body heat and gently crushed. If you want to activate, you have to break the cell membranes. It's like two chemical components, like a chemical weapon, and then activate sulforaphane. And then basically you have to be at body heat in order to activate it. So it's like, oh, so you mean eating? So when the plant gets eaten, it creates this very toxic chemical that's even toxic to the broccoli plant. And it has to, that's why it keeps it in two separate chambers. And when you break those chambers, then you have the chemical. And the idea with modern health is that, well, it's compensatory reaction. Like it's stressing your body out, but then the net effect is good. You're compensating for the toxins in the plant, known carcinogens, all kinds of crap that are designed to be defense chemicals, and you have a net positive from that reaction. And from an evolutionary standpoint, we kind of just sitting back and saying, well, okay, maybe, but is that really the design? And it's like, well, what's in the plant that isn't in the animals? Because maybe there's some nutrient that I need that's in the plant that's not in the animals. That way I need to have a well-balanced diet. And it's all the vitamins that are in plants are not bioavailable. You have to convert them into the animal forms. Whereas if you eat a ruminant, you're getting already pre-converted bioavailable nutrition. It's more perishable, but you're getting that, vitamin A, retinol, is actually retinol if you're eating liver from an animal. But in carrots, for example, it's not actually vitamin A. It's beta carotene, which is a vitamin A precursor. And so if you start to say, okay, well, there's cost, there's inflammation. So if you're sick, maybe eating a huge plate of salad is not a great idea. What's the right level? I don't know. But for carnivores, we're just hey, I got jacked up. I'm sick. I'm going to look at everything, look under every rock. It's if the vitamins and minerals in the plants aren't helpful enough that I have to have it, and they're also introducing inflammation, well, maybe I just take a break from that, do an elimination diet, see what I'm reacting to. Maybe certain vegetables I'm reacting to, maybe certain I'm not. So just the big picture is the same kind of vein that I came from with humility of I don't know what messed me up. It could have been whole horrible list of things. So starting from that place, I'm going to eat something and design something that I know is safe. And then once I have a safe home territory, I can move out from there.
Yeah, I love that, man. And it, I'm no expert, right? But because of our similar experience being jacked up, man, like I've been diving down these rabbit holes, same ones you've been talking about. And do so, I got medically retired after 20 years. My body is jacked. I don't feel that bad today, right? Like, so after I retired, I started diving down these rabbit holes of food and all that. And I'd already started figuring out I need to cut things out for my gut health, right? Because that was already jacked up. We've been dealing with that for years, lots of GI appointments, lots of nutritionists and all that. But dude, once I cut out vegetables, man, it was mostly red meat, wild game, fruit, and raw honey. Like that's all I eat, right? And salt, right? So like Redmond sea salt, same stuff you put in the carnivore bars.
Yep.
Dude, like I still have pain, right? Still have chronic pain, but dude, my inflammation is down. I've been training for these two hunts that are coming up next month. Dude, like I put on 58 pounds on Sunday and walked 5 miles. My back and my hips, if you look in my MRI, like there's absolutely no way you could do this. But I did. And I think a lot of that is after I retired and going down these rabbit holes, I started living like a human, right? Like, what is a human supposed to live like? Well, they're supposed to get sunlight. They're supposed to connect with nature. They're supposed to eat meat. They're supposed to eat fruit. They might not supposed to be eating vegetables. So let's cut that out and figure it out.
Yeah, especially the dose. It could just be a dosing issue. It's like you see a kid, they put lots of things in their mouth, but what's doing the work?
Yeah. Yeah.
It seems like it's the meat. That.
Yeah.
Just
dude, I can go a whole day just eating meat. I like fruit, so I'm going to keep eating fruit. But like, yeah, meats and fats, like proteins and fats. That's the key right there. It's the key for taking away that chronic pain and helping with that gut health, even with like sleep issues you talked about, like mental stress issues that you were dealing with as a medic, man. Like, dude, your brain runs off of fat. So if you're depriving yourself of fat and you've already got issues, how do you think that's going to help?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely did a lot of deep dive into beta oxidation, mitochondrial health, looking at fat metabolism. But everything I came up on, got really into the weeds and the Krebs cycle and electron transport chain. And I'm like, but everything just kept coming back. Saturated animal fat is the cure. And so it's like,
yep.
I can keep dialing in and getting really nerdy and into all this stuff. And it's like, if I already have the answer and I have this great idea of how I can basically put the cure for modern obesity in a bar and have other people help me support me doing that. It's like, well, I'm better served just creating this thing, making it more affordable, making it better, making more of it bigger and bigger batches more and more efficiently than I am just kind of being another like keto nerd. And it's like, you'll get really into the details of this. And it's like, there are a lot of people talking about it. There's a lot of people posting on Instagram, hey, I've lost, whatever pounds. It's like, but I don't see a lot of people taking it and making it actionable to the battlefield or to exploring or to modern day adventurers. And I'm like, I'm not super interested in just talking about it. I'll talk about it, but like, I actually want to get moving. I want to do something about this and I want to solve this problem.
That's so cool, dude. That's freaking awesome. You got to talk to the founder of HLA, Luke. You guys there's a lot of crossovers starting your own company and the ups and downs and like when you said 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and you were like, I finally kind of have my weekends back. And Luke, all he loves is working out and hunting. And he's like, I thought creating a hunting company in the outdoor industry would let me hunt all I want, and now I hunt less than I ever have in my entire life.
Exactly. And, it's so crazy.
So, big respect for you taking that jump and wanting to actually do something good with solving that solution, right? Because like everybody knows somebody who's like on keto or carnivore and it's worked well for them losing weight, but like what you just said is really important. You're trying to make it more functional and accessible for people who are out actually doing stuff, right? Not just solve an individual nutritional problem, right?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I was a combat medic, and my civilian equivalent job is being a paramedic. So that's like 24-hour shifts eating gas station food.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, I don't know if my guts have it. Like, we've been on a roller coaster. Like, I ain't gonna need something better, and there wasn't really anything out there that hit those macros, that was easy to digest, that didn't have any contaminants or preservatives, or wasn't made by some like industry giant, some billionaire who's selling these things for a buck a piece just to make money. They sell it for a buck because they put 5 cents of material in it. Yeah. Right. So we're putting, we did this completely back ass. It's like, we took a half pound of grass finished meat and put it into a 2-ounce bar, so it's completely the wrong way to business, but it is the right way to survive and thrive. And so, that's kind of my goal. I started from what I needed and worked my way backwards and trying to make that into a functional business. And, I've just been overwhelmed and really amazed with the community. I'm sure Luke feels the same about his community, that so many people are engaged and, lifted up and emboldened to like go do the thing that they love to do. And for the carnivore community, this is something that I felt like if I wanted to go be a medic and be a paramedic and go save lives and do all this stuff, like this is the thing that was keeping me from doing that. Not having good nutrition, in the meat wagon, it is really a deal breaker for me because I can't survive off gas station food.
Yeah, dude. And
I know what that's like, man. Trying to go through stressful situations with your guts all jacked up and you're just swallowing Imodium like they're Skittles, Trying to stay in the game. Yeah, not fun.
And I want to talk about your ingredients, Phillip, and kind of how you narrowed down that process. Like, I'm curious about the research and development behind narrowing those down. But something you just said reminded me, man, like these need to be in the hands of, you said you're a paramedic. Both my sisters are nurses. These need to be in the hands of everybody who's doing long shifts like that. Like these need to be in every nurse's hands for their shift. Or, any blue collar construction worker who, when you're on those long shifts, those types of industries have a tendency to aim themselves to easy, crappy, fast food, fast meals, because you have to hammer it down. My sister's the charge nurse of the ER in Atlanta, and she's like, more times than not, I'm eating just garbage because I have 3 minutes between, everything that's going on in the ER. Or if I'm on a big construction site or something like that, I see these guys at gas stations just hammering down on nonsense, Yeah,
and unfortunately, there is there's a cost component. A lot of people who are working those jobs don't make enough to make pemmican worthwhile. But you could always cook ground beef, take to go lunches, make your own pemmican, or rearrange some of your financial priorities to be able to afford it. But yeah, I was actually in the ER doing my clinical rotations, when I made the decision to quit being a paramedic and to start this. I was looking at a nurse retired in the break room. They had a tiny little mini fridge, and it's all full of doctor's food. So the doctors have a monopoly on the tiny little mini fridge. There's a vending machine, and then there's free cake and free pizza. Yeah. And all the nurses and doctors are overweight. They're metabolically compromised. And all of the patients have a metabolic component, whether it's alcoholism, dementia, or, various illnesses and injuries that are, complications of metabolic illness. And I'm just like, all these rooms are full of people who are metabolically compromised. All the people serving them are metabolically compromised. All I have access to is free cake and pizza. And I'm like, I'm not sure medicine is where I belong. If I can't solve this bigger issue, then, we're fighting this losing battle on a chronically sick, population that's not going to get any better. And the convenience factor is something that I wanted to address. And, I think that people are used to having convenient, ready to go food that you don't have to prepare. And so if I can scratch off that one obstacle, still working on making it cost affordable, but I can scratch off the cleanliness, the purity, the high quality ingredients, and it's maximized for weight because it's a pack out food. It's designed to be absolutely super, super, super dense, not add any weight to your pack. And so it packs a really big punch per bar. I know a lot of people who can't eat a whole one. I can eat 2 or 3, but I might not be eating to eat very much the rest of the day. And so that was kind of the idea, is to quench that hunger and be convenient and be super portable, and be super high quality. And so at least we take those excuses off the table. It's like, those are off the table. Now you just have to figure out a way to prioritize it, or use it as an emergency food, or, if the power goes out, you guys are taking it into the woods, doing these epic hunts and doing all this badass stuff. But, there's just a real vulnerability with all our eggs in one basket. If the fridge goes out, if the deep freezer goes out, last year's kills in there,
Yeah.
Yep. What do you do? And it's like, well, pemmican is a way to eat something other than rice and beans in the case of a disaster, whether it's a power outage, storm, hurricane. Goodness knows what. Especially nowadays, our geopolitical climate is pretty spicy.
And you sold out during COVID, right? That's a good indication of that, with supply lines breaking down and not being able to get everything you want at the grocery store. We saw a huge uptick in our team growth during that time, because people who didn't hunt previously wanted to learn how to provide for themselves and their families and be more part of the process. We saw a huge uptick there, and y'all did really well during the pandemic, right?
Absolutely. People were trying to give me whole Bitcoins. It was a crazy time. But it just goes to show, like, when rubber hits the road, it's bullets, pemmican, and those are the kind of things that trade. I literally traded unbuyable bullets for pemmican, during the pandemic. And I said no to the Bitcoin because we had such high demand that I just couldn't make it for any price. And I didn't want to charge more and more. I didn't want to, extort people. But it takes millions and millions of dollars to create a meat plant in America. The regulation is intense. They just get a meat plant down the road that went in for $200 million. And so I raised $80,000 on my Kickstarter. So it's a gap.
Yep.
But I'm fighting a good fight, and every dollar we make goes right back into making sure that we're making quality product. Eventually it might become more of a profitable business, but right now it's my life's passion to solve this issue and to make this high quality bar available to everyone who wants it. And one of the things that you mentioned during the pandemic is suddenly everyone's interested in being self-sufficient in hunting. But you guys can tell me better than everyone else, is where is the game with enough calories, enough fat mass to actually sustain yourself off of just meat alone?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be whitetail.
No. Too lean.
Too lean.
Well, you can eat the fat if you want. I don't want to.
Deer fat doesn't taste good.
It doesn't taste good, and it's way too lean. So the problem, like, people don't realize this, that hunters know intuitively, like, during the Great Depression, like, we had, say, like 140 million people in the States. It took them less than 6 months to decimate the deer population, to make them almost extinct.
Yeah.
So now we have double that question mark number of people here now because we're not counting them all. And we're like the most farmed country in the world. Everyone's going to become an amateur hunter overnight. And it's like it's going to take a lot less time to make all the wild game go. And so, like, there is an ecological issue with where do you get, enough meat, enough high quality meat with enough fat cap? You're going way out in the mountains. Like, you're going to inhospitable places, like the ends of the earth, to find this big game. And it's like, it's nowhere near population centers. And you have to be just ungodly strong and fit in order to be able to survive getting out to where the meat actually is. And it's like, this is a real big problem. If the grid ever goes down or we ever have like a situation or a calamity, like hunting is our ancestral birthright. It's something that, it's why we have cave painting of animals as our logo. It's an homage to this is how we were born. This is who we are as hunters. And so we have this problem with there's no big game. There's no big game that's down the road or in your neighborhood. It's slim pickings if you're going for anything other than deer in most of the continental U.S. And so that just kind of makes me, from a preparedness standpoint, really want to do better and make more and be more efficient in my pemmican creation with cattle, because with this heritage breed of Amity and Angus, I can get a really great fat calf without it being a sick animal, and with it being high quality fat and high quality meat, like you can get if you're going for wild game. You can't get that quality any other way. And scaling up those systems so that we can keep everyone fed in the same continent, I think is something that's really, really important.
Yeah, I agree. It's awesome. Yeah.
That's way important, dude. Can you talk a little bit about your product development, your ingredient selection? What is that? That couldn't have been can't be an easy process.
Well, wild game is like the gold standard of quality protein. If you have something that didn't eat corn all its life, that's great. And so how do you scale something like that? So I found regenerative agriculture. I went to the grass-fed exchange, and I tried a bunch of grass-fed, grass-finished. There's lots of malarkey with labels, but the finishing is what matters. Last 180 days on corn-fed steak, they feed them a bunch of grains, and then they get intramuscular marbling, which makes them really tender and juicy, but it's also destroying the liver and making them very inflamed. That's why they get the fat where it doesn't belong, right in the middle of the muscles there. So regenerative agriculture is a way of cultivating the genetics so that they do really well on grass and grass alone. Back in the day, all the breeds used to do well on grass because no one could afford grain. But with petrochemicals and industrial ag processes, grain is dirt cheap and subsidized. So, that becomes the way that everyone raises cattle. And so the genes, the genetics of the herds are kind of focused towards whatever gets fattest, quickest. It's like whatever shortcut we can to make this more profitable, we're going to take it. And it's like they've just completely left on the table quality. And so regenerative agriculture is focusing on quality, but it also has the optics of being more green. It's actually carbon negative. It's sequestering carbon in the soil. I don't care so much about carbon, but I do like the ecology of fixing the water tables, of keeping the water in the soil, keeping a living root in the soil year round, that biodiversity, and that's going to improve the quality of the protein, improve the quality of the fat, and increase the nutrient density of the meat. To me, that's what I care about. I want the best, most natural product I can, because again, I don't know what made me sick. I don't know what I need exactly, so I want it to be as nutrient dense as possible. And Joyce Farms is the the operation that I found at Grass-Fed Exchange, I met Ron Joyce. He's an amazing guy. He started a bunch of restaurants on the East Coast, and they really cared about the flavor. And one of the things that commodity animal agriculture does is it just nukes the flavor. You're just going make it as big as possible. The meat's all waterlogged and tasteless, has no flavor whatsoever, and that was no good if you're a high-end chef. And so this regenerative agriculture and this high culinary demand kind of had this synergy to it. And so he kind of got his foothold in the market there. And when I found that, found the genetics, found like how he was raising the animals in this natural way that improved the soil quality, I was like, okay, cool. This has good optics. This has good nutrition. It's done sustainably. It's all American. And, the supply chain is, state to state, not halfway across the world. It's something I can trust and count on. And so we did a whole bunch of different series of grass finished meat. Some were cheaper, some were different fatty acid content, but the gamey flavor. If you have a breed that doesn't grass finish well, it can taste pretty fishy. It can taste pretty ripe, and same if you get the right animal. If you're hunting, you guys know, and sometimes you can prefer the gamey flavors. Is part of the fun of it. Everything tastes different. It's not just all bland chicken flavor. So, but at the same time, you get some undesirable characteristics in that flavor profile for your average Joe. And so Joyce Farms is incredibly consistent. And their gamey flavor was rich, umami, but mild. And so it didn't taste like wet dog or, spoiled fish and a little off. You get the right animal late in life. It's had a hard life. You can really taste the age on that meat. So for our bar to make it more like mass market appeal, the genetics is really, really paramount. Maintaining oxygen, moisture discipline along every single process. That is really, really critical in preserving that flavor and not oxidizing it or letting it get stale. And then just making sure that we can hit our quality and our volume and meet demand at that quality. That's been the engineering nightmare and opportunity for growth on my part.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool. I love this whole well-rounded approach, man. You're like talking my language. That's commendable. Appreciate it.
Well, yeah. We're doing our best. Have you guys? What's the weirdest tasting meat that you guys have had, gaminess wise?
Weirdest tasting?
Yeah.
The weirdest is always going to be goat. I don't care whatever their animal ate, goats. And that may just be a psychological factor from eating so much across, all these Middle Eastern, African, and countries and all that. But still, goat, man. I've eaten snake, camel, I don't know, all kinds of weird stuff. I've eaten dog before in Korea. Yeah, but no, the weirdest tasting is still goat.
Yeah,
as far as game animals. Yeah, as far as the game animals go, like the big one people talk about is if you go out to Wyoming and you kill an antelope, right? It's a goat, right? It tastes like a goat. And the first one I killed was a little barnyardy, and I realized probably that barnyardiness really showed out more because I didn't do a great job handling the meat after the kill. Kept the hide on too long. It was hot. So there's a lot of things you can do to kind of mitigate that flavor, but also, when people say like wild game is like gaming or whatever, it's kind of what you're talking about. Like you can tell the difference in beef. Like meat shouldn't taste like the beef you pick up at the store. You know what I mean? It should have flavor. Wild game has flavor, and grass finished beef has flavor. Like I'd call it flavor, right? Some people call it gaminess, but in that antelope or some mule deer I've killed out in Wyoming, you can taste the sage, right? You can taste what they've been eating. And I like that, right? It should have flavor. It shouldn't taste like nothing. Like you said, the bland chicken flavor, you know what I mean?
It's like water and sponge.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this? It's not even meat.
Yeah.
I think that's great that you can pick out the different notes. I think
Yeah.
with regenerative agriculture, they're going for species diversity and perennial grasslands. So there's a host of different species that come in cycles, and so we'll get when we process meat at different periods of the time, we'll get different notes and different flavors, but it'll be all one species helps a bunch in making it a consistent product that people know and
Exactly.
expect and trust.
Right.
Dude, like I killed 3 deer last year, man, and they were all eating 3 different play things, right? One of them was here in Kentucky, just eating acorns. Another one was on some ag land in Wisconsin, and the other one was on a high fence ranch that my buddy runs. And you can taste the difference in all three. And I tell you what, the best tasting one is the one that was out here eating acorns.
Cool. See,
Which is what he should do, right?
I love that connection to the food. It's so important, I think, in that you guys as hunters really understand that, like what they eat and the quality of what they eat, directly affects the nutrients you're bringing into your body. And I think that connection is so important and so lost in modern day culture.
Yeah.
Like I've decided I will never hunt over a soybean field. Never going to happen. I don't care if the biggest deer in the world comes out. I'm not hunting over a soybean field.
Fair enough. Fair enough. There's so much Monsanto crap in that.
Yeah.
It gives you the heebie-jeebies.
Well,
You talk about antelope not tasting good, man. You got to try black buck. That's an antelope, and that was super good.
Yeah, I believe it. We killed one in Hawaii, and it was delicious. And we were on an axis hunt there, and axis is unbelievable. But the second antelope I killed this past year, totally different process, and probably one of my favorites wild game that I've eaten for sure. It was phenomenal.
I grew up in this is kind of a tangent, but I grew up in Mongolia as a missionary kid, and they are really big on mutton. Their whole country smells like mutton. So my first experience was a rich one. They had these fatty-tailed deer, or not deer, fatty-tailed sheep. That their whole tail is this giant glob of fat. And they would serve it to like the honored guests, and that was a real cultural experience. That it's just fun. Like you see these different cultures and their different priorities, different values, and we thought it was funny at the time. It's like, oh, they don't know about saturated fat. It's so bad for your heart. And now come full circle, I'm like, Mongolia's doing stuff. We could have taken a note from them. They were the OG nomad warrior conquerors, conquered half the world. It's like, no wonder, they have such a connection to their herds and their meat, and it's such a more ancestral pattern.
Yeah. Dude, they conquered the world with their version of pemmican, their version of, dried meat that they could take on horseback for tens of thousands of miles. And it all makes sense. And maybe we should be paying attention to successful past civilizations in modern society.
That's what I try to tell people, man. I'm like, look at the tribes and the people that are still living the way our ancestors did. You're going to tell me some nerd in a lab coat knows better?
No.
Nope. We do better taking a note out of their page, out of their successes, learning from their mistakes. The Mongolian empire that Genghis Khan created was ruined when Kublai Khan fell in love with the cultures that he conquered. Not connecting the dots that, you conquered these people because of what they were doing and what you were doing different, being animal-based. It's like, we got to avoid making those same mistakes today.
I like it. Eat meat, conquer the world. That's another t-shirt.
Another t-shirt. That's awesome. Well, Phillip, we're rolling up on an hour here, man. Want to be respectful of your time, but what's coming down the pipe for the Carnivore Bar? What do you got going on? What's new?
So I think I'm going to come out with some new merch. So, we are really big in the community, as Kerri will tell you. Affiliate marketing is kind of our go-to. We want to be of the community and for the community. So I'm coming out with a pair of Ranger panties that say "Just Move,"
Nice.
Stainless
Nice.
steel that says "Drink water." It goes with our Eat Meat shirt. It's like
Nick.
these are the keys to success: to drink water, eat meat, and just move. You know, much like hunt, lift, eat. I couldn't agree more.
Yep.
Live like a human.
Absolutely.
Dude, I love that. Yeah, just so everybody knows, there's a discount code I can give you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Be sure to use Kerri's discount code.
Yeah, use discount code Snake Eater, all one word.
Nice.
I'm gonna get all the kickbacks and use them to buy more pemmican.
And it stacks with the subscription, and you can
It's
cancel
true.
at any time. So you could straight up do a subscription, your order is shipped, cancel, get it at the cheapest price, or continue. You can have it on 3 months, 6 months, and if you use a code, it recurs. So it gives you the kickback, and it gives them the discount in perpetuity until they cancel.
So don't be a dick and cancel it after you subscribe.
It's fine.
And make sure you use the code Snake Eater, all one word. All right.
Yeah, help Kerri out. He's retired, folks. Come on.
Yeah, I'm retired and don't have any money. I want to go play.
That sounds like a worthy cause to me.
That's awesome.
Fund my adventures.
Phillip, where can folks find the Carnivore Bar across social medias and website? And
So it's the Carnivore Bar on Instagram, the Carnivore Bar on Twitter or X, and carnivorebar.com. Come check us out.
too easy. Too easy. Well, I'll be putting in my order, man. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to trying it. I got an elk hunt coming up in September, so that's going to be in my pack for sure. Yeah, absolutely, man. Kerri, you got any closing thoughts for us, dude?
No, man, I'm just pumped that you're able to come on here. I'm pumped to be a part of what you guys are doing. Just being able to represent you guys officially, man, and can't wait to live off of pemmican while I'm in the woods of Alaska attempting to guide somebody for bear and moose.
Hey, we're honored, and we hope it serves you well.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Any closing thoughts for us, Phillip?
Not really. I mean, I think this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you guys having me on. I think that we have a lot in common, and I think encouraging people to live a more ancestral, connected life, is a message that we should put out there more often. I think that everyone would be better served by, cluing into an ancestral way of life, connecting to their food, connecting to the world, getting out there.
100%, dude.
yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I love that. So once
Like a
again,
human.
appreciate you, dude. Yeah, appreciate you. Thanks for your time. Listeners, as always, appreciate the hell out of you guys. Check out the Carnivore Bar, and we'll talk to you guys next week.